There is a moment that arrives quietly, often without warning. It does not announce itself. It does not demand attention. It simply appears like a small pause between breaths, and if you are still enough, you can feel it. This is where the story begins, not with noise, not with struggle, but with a gentle hush that settles inside. You may not understand it at first. You may even wonder if something is missing, but nothing is missing. Something is forming. In this quiet, thoughts move more slowly. Feelings that were once crowded begin to separate, like leaves drifting apart on water. You notice the weight of your own heartbeat. You hear the soft sound of your breathing. And somewhere beneath all of that, there is a question that does not ask for an answer. It only asks to be noticed. What happens when nothing is said? What remains when the world steps back for a moment? Silence can feel unfamiliar. It can feel like standing alone in a wide field at dusk, unsure where to look. The mind may reach for words, for explanations, for reasons to fill the space. But the space does not need filling. It holds its own meaning. In this stillness, emotions rise gently, not to overwhelm, but to be seen. There is no rush. There is no pressure to respond. There is only observation, quiet and honest. You may feel a soft tension at first, as if something inside is waiting to be judged, waiting to be understood, waiting to be heard, yet no voice comes from the outside. And slowly you begin to notice that the waiting itself carries a kind of strength, a calm patience, a quiet dignity. It is the strength of not needing to prove anything in this moment. As the silence deepens, you become aware of how often reactions have guided your steps, how quickly words have rushed forward before the heart could settle. Here, in this pause, there is a different rhythm, one that moves at the pace of understanding rather than urgency. It invites you to sit with what you feel, without pushing it away, without dressing it up, just letting it be what it is. There is a subtle comfort in realizing that silence is not empty. It is full of listening. It listens to the parts of you that have been overlooked. It listens to the quiet thoughts that rarely find their way into speech. In this listening, something begins to soften. The need to explain fades a little. The need to defend loosens its grip. You are simply here, present with yourself. Time seems to stretch in a gentle way. Not long, not short, just wide enough to breathe. You notice how calm can exist without effort, how peace does not always arrive with answers. Sometimes it arrives with acceptance, with the understanding that you do not have to react to every feeling the moment it appears. You can let it pass through, like a cloud drifting across a steady sky. And in this first meeting with silence, something quiet but important takes root. A sense that stillness is not weakness, that pausing is not retreat. It is awareness. It is respect for the inner space where truth grows slowly. As you sit here, listening carefully, you may begin to sense it. The beginning of a strength that does not need words yet. A strength that is content to wait, to watch, and to remain. There comes a time when silence is no longer light. It begins to feel heavy, not because it is wrong, but because it is seen the wrong way. They look at the quiet and decide it must mean something small. They fill the space with their own meanings, their own stories, and you feel it, even when nothing is said aloud. A subtle distance forms, like a thin veil between what you know inside and what they believe from afar. In these moments, the quiet can ache. Not sharply, but deeply. It settles in the chest and lingers there, asking for understanding. You may sense their glances, their assumptions, the way they move on without waiting. It can leave you wondering if silence has made you invisible, if holding back has somehow erased the truth you carry. The question arrives softly. Is being quiet the same as being unseen? They speak in their own way, through gestures, through looks, through conclusions made too quickly. And none of it is cruel in its intent, yet it still weighs on you. Being misunderstood has a way of touching old places inside. places that want to be known, to be recognized for what they truly are. The quiet becomes thick here, not peaceful yet, but tense, like a held breath. You may feel a pull to explain, to step forward and shape their understanding, to correct what has been assumed. This pull is natural. It comes from a simple wish to be seen clearly. But alongside it, there is another feeling, more subtle, a hesitation, a sense that words once released may not land where you hope, that explaining may only invite more noise, not clarity. So you remain still. And in that stillness, the discomfort grows before it softens. You begin to notice how misunderstanding is not always something that can be solved. Sometimes it is simply part of the path. They will see what they are ready to see. They will hear what matches their own echoes. And this realization can feel lonely at first. Loneliness does not always mean being alone. Sometimes it means standing quietly while others pass by without noticing the depth beneath the surface. It is a quiet form of separation, gentle but real. Yet even here, something important is happening. You are learning what it feels like to stay with yourself when clarity does not come from the outside. The silence starts to change shape. It is no longer just a pause. It becomes a mirror. In it, you see your own reactions rising and settling. You see the urge to defend and the choice to wait. You see how quickly misunderstanding can stir emotion and how slowly calm can return when you allow it space. This watching, this gentle awareness is not empty. It is teaching you something without words. You begin to sense that being misunderstood does not take away your truth. It only reveals how deeply you are connected to it. The quiet becomes a test of sorts, not of strength that pushes outward, but of steadiness that holds inward. Can you remain present without needing agreement? Can you keep your center when the world looks elsewhere? In the hush of this moment, there is no clear comfort yet, but there is a growing steadiness, a realization that understanding from others while comforting is not the only form of validation. The silence, though heavy, is shaping you gently, teaching you to rest in what you know, even when it is not reflected back. And so you sit with it, the misunderstanding, the quiet ache, the unanswered space, not resisting it, not rushing to escape it, just observing, breathing, allowing the moment to be what it is. Somewhere in this stillness, a deeper strength is beginning to form, unseen for now, but steady all the same. At some point, the weight of being misunderstood no longer presses as hard. It does not disappear, but it settles into something quieter, something easier to carry. In this space, a small shift begins to happen. You notice that the urge to respond has softened. The need to explain no longer rises so quickly. Instead, there is a pause, gentle and steady, where a new understanding begins to form. You start to see that not every moment asks for a reply. Some moments simply ask to be witnessed. Words, once so ready, now wait at the edge of thought. And in their waiting, you sense a kind of strength that does not push forward. It stands still. It listens. It observes. What if silence is not absence but choice? This realization does not arrive with certainty or pride. It arrives quietly, like a truth that has been waiting patiently. You feel it in the calm between breaths, in the way your shoulders rest more easily, in the way the heart no longer races to meet every misunderstanding. There is a growing trust in stillness, a sense that you do not need to meet every sound with a sound of your own. You begin to notice how much energy was once spent on reaction, how quickly emotion could rise and demand expression. Now, emotion still rises, but it is met with space. It is allowed to move through without being named or pushed away. This space becomes a refuge, a place where feelings can exist without becoming actions, where thoughts can pass without becoming decisions. In this quiet refuge, you learn something gentle and lasting. Silence can protect what is true inside you. It can hold it safely, away from misinterpretation. Words can be shaped by many things, but silence remains honest. It does not twist. It does not argue. It simply is. And in that simplicity, there is clarity. You may still feel the presence of their voices, distant but real. The memory of being misunderstood does not vanish, yet it no longer controls the moment. It becomes part of the background, like a faint echo that does not disturb the present calm. You realize that responding to every echo only keeps it alive. Letting it fade brings peace. There is a quiet confidence growing here, not the kind that announces itself, but the kind that feels rooted. It comes from knowing that your worth is not shaped by reaction, that self-respect does not need defense in every moment. You can choose when to speak and when to remain still, and this choice feels powerful, even though it is gentle. You observe how silence changes the way you see others. Their assumptions no longer feel like threats. They are simply reflections of their own inner noise. You do not need to carry that noise. You can let it pass by, untouched. This understanding brings a soft compassion, not only for them, but for yourself. In this realization, there is no rush forward, no need to prove that you have grown. Growth has already taken place quietly in the unseen spaces. It has grown in patience, in restraint, in the ability to hold your center when the world moves around you. This growth feels steady, like a deep root taking hold beneath the surface. As you sit with this understanding, a calm settles in. The silence no longer feels heavy or tense. It feels chosen. It feels aligned. You are not silent because you are unsure. You are silent because you are clear. And in this clarity, there is a quiet strength that does not need to be spoken to be real. Now the quiet feels different. It is no longer tense or heavy. It is steady, like water that has found its level, or a tree that has grown slowly through many seasons. You notice that being still does not mean being empty. It does not mean waiting for something to happen. It means simply being present, fully, with what is here. Can silence itself carry a sense of peace? Perhaps it can, when it is chosen and held gently. In this calm, you begin to see how much strength can live in quiet moments. Not the kind of strength that moves mountains or commands attention, but the kind that anchors you when storms pass nearby. It is a strength that does not need to shout, because it has nothing to prove. It exists simply, and that is enough. What does it feel like to hold yourself with respect without asking for it from others? It is a soft, steady warmth that comes from inside, from knowing that your own presence is enough. You reflect on the moments when they did not understand, when assumptions filled the spaces between you. And yet, in this reflection, there is no bitterness. The noise of misunderstanding seems distant now, like a soft wind that has passed over a field. You do not need to chase it or quiet it. You do not need to be seen to be complete. The understanding that once felt urgent now feels gentle, as if it has settled on its own. In the stillness, there is a rhythm to life that you can feel quietly without fork. Breathing, noticing, being aware of the subtle movements of thought and feeling. The quiet teaches you that growth does not always announce itself. Sometimes it grows slowly, almost unnoticed, like roots spreading beneath the soil. And when you finally notice it, it is strong enough to hold everything without strain. You may sense a soft joy in simply being here, alone with yourself. It is not loud or bright. It does not demand to be celebrated. It is a quiet satisfaction, a sense of balance that has been earned through patience and observation. You see the value of choosing silence over reaction, of allowing moments to unfold without rushing to shape them. There is a freedom in this choice, a freedom that feels calm and gentle. The heart that once ached from being misunderstood now rests easily. It is no longer pulled by the need to explain or defend. It feels a soft pride, not in achievement, but in presence. In the way it can hold space for itself, steady and unshaken. You notice how small this moment seems from the outside, yet how immense it feels inside. A quiet power lives here, one that is grounded in knowing, not showing. You begin to sense that this quiet strength touches other parts of life, unseen but real. Decisions feel lighter, emotions feel steadier, and the mind moves without urgency. You are no longer ruled by every passing impulse or reaction. Instead, you move with a gentle awareness, noticing without needing to act on everything immediately. It is a freedom born of restraint, a strength born of patience. And in the stillness, you realize that silence has become your companion. It is not a retreat, not an escape. It is a home for the self, where clarity and respect can live together quietly. You do not need to seek attention or prove your value. It is already known, quietly, in the way you hold yourself, in the way you choose to remain present. Here, in the calm that follows all noise, there is no need for applause, no need for recognition. There is only the soft assurance that you are enough, that your presence is steady, that your inner power is unshaken. And with this assurance comes a gentle peace, the kind that does not fade with the world outside, but lives quietly within, steady, lasting, and whole.